everybody, I'm so glad to be back with you today. We're going to do a quick and easy birthday card today, and I am excited to show you a couple tips and tricks with some watercoloring and some vellum. If you hadn't had the chance yet, please make sure you hit that subscribe and like button today. I will include everything that I use in the description, so make sure you click through that for links. Those links do give me a small commission that does not cost you anything. So if you're going shopping today, go through those links. That helps me out. Let's get right into this video. I'm going to be using Altenew's Crisp Dye Inks. That pink spot on this waffle flower mat is from this ink. I don't know why of all my inks this one stained the mat, but just FYI, if you don't want pink spots on your mat, you may not want to smush this directly on it. So I'm doing a really light watercolor wash, and I decided just to go all the way across the paper because I know I'm going to stamp over this, and the stamp is about the width of this paper. So I decided I'd go all the way across. I'm going to use 4 colors. So if you know anything about Altenew, you know that when they do their dye inks, they do them in sets of 4. So I am using the second level of color in that 4 so that I could get just a little bit more on this. I'm using a lot of water, so I knew that it was going to be very light if I went with an even lighter color, so I picked that second level. The second ink that I'm using is Warm Sunshine, and Warm Sunshine is a really pretty yellow, so we've got our pink up there that's Pinkalicious, and now we're going to do Warm Sunshine. And how many swipes I do, basically I'm just eyeballing a 1/4 of this so that I can do 4 colors on my page. So I'm just trying to eyeball about what that is, do a light wash. It makes you, you're doing it so fast, it makes you kind of want to keep going back over it. But as it starts to dry, you don't want to leave streaky marks in it. So I tend to wipe off my edges because they get so wet. As you can see, this piece of paper wants to fold up because it's so wet. The blue color is Ocean Waves, so I love this color. I use this color all the time because I feel like it's such a great blue. It's a great blue in its original form, but even watercolor, you can see it's got a little greenish tint to it. Greenish blue, beautiful color. You can see that the paper's getting very wet, and so it's starting to curve. There's several different ways you could attack this. You could put acrylic block, something heavy on top of it, and let it dry that way. That does work well. You could also tape it down, which works great, but I tend to really like a specific trick that I'm going to show you after this. I'll show you what I like to do. But first, let's look at our purple swipe here. So I do like my colors to overlap. I feel like that looks really good. And I don't want to overuse them so that I'm making too many stripes in here. I do dry around the edges. You've probably seen me do that a few times, and just to help it dry. I am a little aggravated. This color also stained my mat. I have not had problems with this waffle flower mat staining before, so this is a first time. So I would say that my recommendation is if you're going to use Altenew inks, don't use them on your waffle flower mat unless you're okay with it turning colors. Okay, here's the trick, is putting your watercolor paper that's all warped through a laminator. I usually do this a couple of times. One thing about this is that I feel like it helps it dry if you hadn't gotten it completely dry, but I usually put it through, I a lot of times do the highest heat, and I go through each direction. So I'll go through this way, I'm going to flip it over and go through that way, and then I turn it to where it's horizontal and stick it in there, and that gets the paper nice and flat. This is the stamp set I'm going to use to make my patterns. It has layered tie-dye, and it has these great stripes. So I'm going to show you how I use this to create the background. So we're going to use the top stripes and the bottom, and so it's a set of 2 stripes, but they can kind of layer over each other. So I'm going to show you how I like to use these and see what you think. The way I'm going to use these stripes is I'm going to try to keep my color going in the same order with the rainbow. So I'm going to stamp this top layer in pink, and I'm going to use the exact color that we watercolored with. Of course, this is not going to be the watercolor version, so it is definitely going to be darker, but it definitely matches my base color. So it looks really cool. I think it highlights it well. So I do my first set of stripes here, and then now I'm going to overlap the other set of stripes. The second set of stripes are thinner lines, and I think it just is a nice complement. So it gives you just this kind of funky striped pattern on the background that really matches everything else. So with this set of stripes, we're going to definitely have the top pink. That bottom part falls in the yellow, so I'm going to do two different colors on this set of stripes. The yellow is called Warm Sunshine, and it is the color that we watercolored in that area. So let's look at what it looks like when you stamp it on top of the yellow. So it's nice with these stripes you can do multiple colors because they're far enough apart. So we've got a pink stripe and a yellow stripe over the yellow. I'm going to continue rotating my stripes in this way, so we're back to a solid yellow. So both stripes on this one will be yellow, and then we'll overlap our next one, and it'll have to be two colors. So same kind of pattern, just following this all the way down. I'm going to speed the process up so that you can see how this turns out. So I'm going back in with the thinner sets of stripes. This time it overlaps onto the blue, so we'll have two different colors. We'll have Warm Sunshine at the top and Ocean Waves on the bottom. Ocean Waves is that beautiful color I love. So we'll see how these turn out. Awesome. I love how this looks. So we're going to keep on doing this. I'm going to keep it speeded up and just make sure I've got you all the colors that you need. So now we're going to move into our purple. So I don't have the large ink pad for this purple, so in case you can't see the title on it, I'll make sure I show you that. But this one is in the blue and purple, so it's going to have Ocean Waves as the blue, and then our purple is Lavender Fields. So I'll show you how this looks, and then I'm going to finish it out where you are not watching on camera, and we'll move ahead to the next part. Alright, here's the finished product. I just think this is such a festive, happy card. It could be used for a lot of things, but I think it's going to be perfect for happy birthday. We're going to start with this set from Altenew called Halftone Happy. I'm going to use the outline, and I'm going to stamp this on vellum, and we're going to color it in the rainbow order like our other parts of this card. The set does come with a die that you could cut the happy out, but I wasn't quite sure where I would put my birthday, so I decided I would make like a belly band to go around the card. So I'm going to stamp happy birthday in Versamark ink. We're going to heat emboss this. I'll show you how that looks, and then we are going to do some coloring. Because we're heat embossing, we got to put down some type of powder to keep that embossing powder from sticking to the rest of the vellum. I think vellum is one of the trickiest things to heat emboss, so you want to make sure you get a good coat of powder. I tried out this new tool, and I still think I like my powder bag the best when I'm using vellum. So I don't know if I've mentioned yet, but this vellum that I'm using is very heat tolerant. It is the Simon Says stamp type of vellum, and I really like it for heat embossing. It's a little bit more opaque than I feel like than some of my vellums, but I feel like it's a very sturdy one and holds up really well. I'm coloring on vellum. I like to swatch my Copic markers to make sure it is bright enough, and I'll hold those over the card. With this, you would think, oh, I'm just going to color on the front, but you've got to color on the back so you don't hurt the nibs of your Copic markers. It also gives the streakiness that can sometimes happen with coloring with alcohol ink a little bit more of a buffer so that you don't notice it so much on the front. I'm going to start coloring this card with RV25, which I'll pop up in the bottom for you. And I'm going to follow the same pattern as the card. So we're going to go in rainbow order, and I'm trying to make each of these letters almost like an ombre rainbow. You know, we're going to take it from the top and do every letter similar so it gives it a very cohesive look. When I was talking about alcohol inks, it's really tricky, especially with this white embossing, to make sure you don't get outside the lines and that you get all the way up to the line, because each time you lay down another little bit of that alcohol ink, you can make almost like brush marks in it. So you want to do it as quickly and with as few swipes as you can. So I've got my pink down. Now I'm going to go in with my yellow. With this yellow, you can try to kind of blend a little bit of those ink marks out and just make them blend right up at the top. But you're not going to want to go back over the whole thing again, or you're making more lines. As you see each place that I put down my ink, I'm getting a couple little lines. So I'm going to use this yellow, which is Y17, and I've already popped that up for you, to kind of help smooth out some of those transitions. So you can see how that yellow looks. You can still see the lines. But now we're going to go in and we're going to add some blue. So this is BG49, and I'll pop that up on the screen so you can see. But the blue I'm going to start blending in too, and you're going to be amazed at how little of this streakiness you see on the front of these. It really, when you kind of get your colors smooth together, is not noticeable. Hey, this is another reason why you wouldn't ever want to try to color on the front of your vellum. You need that buffer of that kind of opaqueness to cover up these marks that are on the vellum. So not only that, but you also can color your embossing. So with using white embossing, I could easily, with an alcohol marker, color over it and change its color. You just got to think of alcohol markers as able to color most every surface type. The last color I'm using is BV08, so this is the purple. I'm going to kind of smooth it in, and then I'll go back and just look at it from the front, make sure that I got all of my coloring close enough to the lines so that it looks like I filled it in well. And then this part will be done. You're still on my up close picture going to be able to see from the front some of the little bit of streakiness, but I want you to pay attention and notice how this looks once we get to the final project. You do not notice it anymore. Once this is on front of the card, it really does not look streaky anymore, and the way I affixed this vellum to the front of the card is by making a long enough strip and bending it behind the card and then taping and using adhesive at that point, because of course adhesive is very hard to use with vellum. You have to be really careful about where you put it, and this was such thin lines I just thought the belly band would be a little bit better idea. Now I'm trying to decide what I'm going to use for my embellishments. I've got a lot of these little Trinity stamps hearts in different colors, so I'm going to pick a couple of these coordinating colors and add them to it, and then we'll be done with this card. Thank you so much for joining me for this card process. I hope that you enjoyed it and got something useful out of it. I will be back again with more videos next week. Please make sure you hit the subscribe, notification, and like buttons, and know that everything is included in the description. Have a great day. Bye.